एक 1 hour पहले session discuss करेंगे and then when we stop recording again we will go ahead with the doubts. Okay. ये सारा कुछ क्लोज कर लेता हूँ, बहुत सारा कंटेंट पड़ा इधर. So this was our last session, right? We have discussed on how to write a stable standard program is application. Okay, program as application. This is what we have learned. Now today we will be learning some basics which you already know. It's please understand today, tomorrow, whatever we are going to discuss is just a refreshment of what you have already learned. You may feel it bore, you may feel it like it is repetitive, but uh, I'm expecting few more people to join today, tomorrow, or Monday or Tuesday kind of thing. So we are going a bit slow, and the concepts like I was told to start from the scratch and then continue. So people who already knew it, consider it as a recap for you. People who don't know it, note down if you feel any new point is there. Okay, that's the request. Now, one thing we have discussed, like, how many can be there as a part of the class. Now, please understand something. When you speak about a class, when you speak about an object, many people will come and then ask you, do you know the OOPS rules? Yes or no? That's the first question everybody will ask. Like when you speak about Java programming language, which is 100% object oriented is what people claim as. People generally will ask you, do you know the OOPS rules? Please understand the first term of Java, writing a class itself is based on the OOPS rules only. So Java completely follows the OOPS rules. Okay. How many OOPS rules you know? Anybody can tell me.
4.
Tell me those.
Polymorphism, inheritance,
Order.
encapsulation.
नहीं एक order है.
Okay.
चलो.
Polymorphism, abstraction, inheritance, encapsulation.
We'll be starting
Right.
from object and classes.
Somebody says कि object and class is the starting. Then polymorphism, inheritance. और क्या है? Abstraction.
Encapsulation.
Encapsulation. इधर आएगा क्या?
Interface.
इधर आएगा encapsulation. Before polymorphism or after polymorphism?
Um,
After
मतलब
after.
after.
polymorphism.
After.
Inheritance abstract. इतना ही है. 5 rules है. Okay. चलो इसको elaborate करके बताते हैं. This is called as zeroth rule. Class, object and inter-object communication through object basically. Okay, so to object reference, this is the first rule. Anything you write should be a class at design time, which will be represented as an object at runtime, and two objects can communicate with each other through their object reference. What is this inter-object communication? Through वाला part निकाल देते, इतना ही बोलते. Class object and inter-object communication is the zeroth rule. तो इसका जो second rule है, this defines how these objects to be communicating with each other. The first rule says that when one object communicates to another object, it actually has to follow the next rule. Data abstraction and encapsulation. And then the third rule is what you call it as inheritance to or usability using inheritance. This is what you are supposed to say. Object reusability using inheritance. This one is basically data protection using data abstraction and encapsulation, object, or I could say reusability using inheritance, and then the fourth one comes into the picture. This is polymorphism. So what is polymorphism is functional reusability using polymorphism. And then the final comes, the fifth one. Right? Implementation using abstraction. What abstraction? Object abstraction. Okay. Basically, you can call this as functional and object abstraction. This is exactly people will speak about. Sorry, my throat was not well. So in short, these are described as class and object, encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction. So the terms generally are referred like this: as object. This one is told as encapsulation. As you said, this is correct only, but the definition is what I have written. This is inheritance. This is the order basically. We will also see how this order is followed. Polymorphism and finally abstraction. Okay, and now in order to kickstart with Java and to practice basic level of programs to understand the Java behavior of compile time as well as at runtime, you need to understand what is this one is all about. Without this, you cannot go ahead and proceed. So we will learn this part first. We'll practice all the basics within this week. And then from next week, when we start OOPS, right, you will be learning this part. Clear? So I'm dividing this into a whole bunch of two parts. One is learning about all about class and object. Another is learning about the remaining things that we are supposed to achieve in order to make this application or program that you are writing as an 100% object oriented. Okay, clear? So what is this class, object and inter-object communication? Well, let me explain. I'll take a paint. Guys, I'll show you something. You people have to tell me what is it. Okay. So ये मैं तुम्हें दिखा रहा हूँ, ये वाला वीडियो देखो. What is that you see in the video? Mobile. You're able to see something? Mobile phone. Somebody said
Mobile.
mobile phone. Okay.
Mobile.
Right. Great. Great. I'm writing whatever you said. I'm writing it. So what you told is mobile phone. Is it a smartphone or a normal phone?
Smartphone.
Smartphone. Shall I call it as a smartphone?
Of course.
Okay. What type of phone this is? Smartphone. It is of type mobile.
Mobile.
Yes or no? Right. Now, if you nobody told me, Ram, आप जो use कर रहे हो, ये Vivo phone है. Why? You should have told me, Ram, what you are using is Vivo V23. Yeah, Ram, you are using OnePlus 10. Ram, you are using this. Ram, you are using that. कुछ नहीं बोला. You said कि Ram, this is a smartphone. You know why you said that? Because this is the classification of what I have shown you, which is what we call as class. So the classification of that component is always identified as a mobile phone. So you said it as a mobile phone. In other words, I could say this is a, a root to type. You agree with that? Yes or no? Whatever you said is the root type. So using which you can identify a component is called its class. Its class. Now to a class called mobile phone or a smartphone, which is of root type, at runtime. Okay, please try to understand. At runtime, I can have Vivo V23. I can have OnePlus 10, or I can have, you know, Samsung, क्या है उसका Galaxy, blah 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 blah. So many, right on. So what is this is all about? This is called as object. Please identify the difference. So what is a class? Class is what defines a component. Object is what you use at runtime as a copy of the class, a working copy of the class. Be specific. I repeat, a working copy of the class. So class basically contains blueprint or definition of an object. So what is this actually is blueprint, yeah, definition of an of a component. Right? Somebody speaking? भाई कुछ बोलना है क्या? No problem. And this is a working copy of the class defined or defined. Sorry, working of the class. What do you call this? Working copy, or I could say at runtime. मतलब जो available है. Okay, please try to understand. That is the difference between class and object. So at class level, when we speak, I'm taking this mobile phone as an example and taking this so that you can easily understand. I can have a camera, I can have SD card, and I can have a SIM card. Yes or no? And I can have functionalities like messaging, calling, extra. Correct? Yes, sir. Now, for an object, the values will differ. You agree with that? So I may have a 108 megapixel camera in one phone. I may have a 48 megapixel camera in some other phone, right or not? Right? So what all these are called as? These are these are basically what you are defining as properties, right? Properties of the class, properties for the class you are defining. I could say member of the class, or in specific, I can say data members of the class. OK, so here having this messaging, calling kind of things are called as functionalities of class. Am I clear? So when you define a class, you define these two properties and functionalities. Right. So these properties in the object are basically taken as attributes. We call them attributes. And these, the functionalities, we call them methods. Now, if you have observed these two, the properties, there are two different kind of properties you have. Camera and SD card, they stay inside the phone. And whereas the SIM card basically it stays inside the phone, but it actually points to some tower. Correct or not? Now, let's say I go to a remote place, to a forest or a hill area. Will I be able to make a phone call? No. Why? Because the SIM card does not get a signal from nearest tower. That means though this SIM card belong to this class inserted inside the phone or being a data member, it is always referring to or pointing to some external memory, because of which if that memory is not available, this guy is useless. So such a kind of element is called as reference member, whereas this one which holds their value inside the phone are called as value member. So two different kind of data members you can have, value member as well as reference member. Example of value member, you could give it as int marks is equals to some 30. Example of reference member in a class, you can give it as student Tanu is equals to new student. See, this Tanu is a variable name which is pointing to a memory which is created new in some runtime environment. OK, that could be anything. Randomly, a student is being loaded into memory and the address of that memory is being assigned to Tanu. So here, let's say if the student object is located in a memory location which contains heap and stack and that 1025, then 1025 will be assigned to Tanu. This 1025 is nothing but pointer location. Clear? So this is what called as a reference member. Well, similarly, here in the functionalities also, we always can have two different kind of functionalities. Please understand. One is called as callable, other which you already know as runnable. Look at this name, runnable. This same name we will be using when we come to threads, runnable. So functionality that can be run is called as runnable functionality. Functionality that can be called, which executes and do something for us, is called as a callable functionality. So these methods in the same way, the attributes and all, OK, so are also of two types. One is value types as well as reference types, and methods at runtime are also in the object can be taken into two types. So we call them business methods. And this one we simply call as a main method. Now here also we can call them, the value members. Yes, it is variables. What type of variables? These are basically, implicit Java data type based variables, basically, or value types. And this one is a reference variable. Most probably instance of other objects. OK, so this is what it is. When you speak about a class at runtime, it will be loading like this. Now, how these classes are supposed to be communicating with each other? No, I'm speaking to you, right? You are able to listen to me. I need an answer. I'm able to speak. I'm speaking. Are you able to listen?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes, Ram.
Okay. See,
Yes.
listen. Aram se dekho. You are an object of type student. I am an object of type faculty. There is another object of type faculty you have met, which is Shweta. Who is Shweta, right? So two objects are there who are representing the same type, same class called faculty. So at runtime, the faculty class has two instances, or I could say two objects. One object name is Ram, another object name is Shweta. And then student is the classification type, class type. And at runtime to represent the student, I have 59 members. So if one object of type student has to communicate to another type of object or a class type called faculty Ram, how this happens? I use one of my functionality. I repeat, I use one of my functionality called speaking. I being an object using my functionality called speaking. OK, and I'm passing a value member called tone. This is my value member. I'm giving as an input to you. And then you people have a functionality called listening. And that listening functionality is taking a parameter called my tone and then you are actually, analyzing it, listening it, and then you are replying back again using one of your functionality. So now what is the data member or variable used at your end is your ear, and the data member that I have used at my end is my mouth, tone, tongue, whatever you call it as. And the functionalities we are using is your functionality is listening, my functionality is speaking. And data member in your class is your ear, and data member in my class, in the faculty class, is tone or mouth. Hope this is clear. So if two objects have to communicate with each other, they must use one of the method, and in order to exchange the data, they must use one of their variable. Am I clear? This is what is called as class, object, and inter-object communication. How objects communicate with each other? Using their methods, rule, thumb rule. Without method, can't they communicate? Never. Okay. In order to exchange the data, how do? They do using the variables. So what is the purpose of variables basically here? I could straight away write placeholders for exchanging data between objects. Is there any other use of this? Answer is no, basically. Or you can use the same thing within your program in order to evaluate or to hold something or to process something. Okay. And to hold data during program execution to process. More than this, honestly speaking, you cannot do anything with the variable. Hope this point is clear. What is class, object, and inter-object communication?
Yes, Ram.
So, TK, so that you people have understood. Okay, so we will speak about how to write these methods, how to write these variables, how many different kind of variables are there, what are all the various options of accessing them, all that stuff we will learn now. So, shall I clean up the script?
Sure.
Right. Okay, so data. If class is being defined to hold data to process it, it basically holds the data into some variable. We defined, I mean, we understood that. But what type? Now, you need to take laptop. Can you take a water bottle for it?
No.
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 Okay, you need to take water. Can you take your laptop back for it?
No, Ram.
No.
Why
No.
not? Why? Because the container type is not meant to hold that type of data. Right or wrong? So variables are containers. If they have to hold the data, the variable has to be defined with the same type, to be initialized with the same type, to be declared with the same type. Meaning of that is first you need to understand what are all the kind of data that you can hold or consume. Just like a human can consume only certain things, Java also can consume only certain things. If I ask you, let's say we go out to a movie and you say कि यार राम बहुत भूख लग रही है यार, मैंने बोला अरे यार ये चेयर खा लो, चेयर खा सकता है? Can you eat the chair in the theater? No, right? You why not? Because your body cannot consume it. Your body cannot consume it. So simply speaking, so a system is made to consume only certain types, and your system can consume only same thing. Similarly, people who have designed Java, they have designed it in such a way that it can consume only certain types. Well, how many types? You know anybody? Can anybody tell me how many types? No? बता simple है, three types. Members, tools, object. Okay. So it is that simple. So you have number, bool, and object. तो यार ये n कहाँ चला गया? कुछ भी. Okay, number, bool, and object. These three are the raw types what Java can consume. And then they have further bifurcated these numbers into two types. Integral, real. Okay, so they further divided this whole stuff into two parts. And मैं इसको नीचे लेके आता हूँ भाई. Clear? Now, even to a specific, they have divided these integrals and reals also into further types. This is parental, grandparent, parent, and the actual child we generally use. The first one is byte, the second one is short, the third one is int, and we have log. These four are considered for integrals. And ये दोनों के बीच में औरा का बैठ जाएगा whose name is char. For real, we have float and double. And for Boolean types, we have Boolean. For objects type, we have string object. So these 10 are my types. That's it. The answer is yes. These 10 are the built-in Java data types. More than this, Java को कुछ समझ में नहीं आता and it cannot take also. Further types are also defined as a part of the internal packages, but not as a original built-in Java types. Okay. So why the hell this char is coming in between short and integer? Char integer type थोड़ी होता है, in Java होता है. Yes. Basically, Java is an internet based programming language. We need to support the whole bunch of languages that are used in the world. So it has come up, and when this Java is made, people were coming up with a new formation called Universal Text Format, in short known as UTF. These UTF people have proposed a new coding language called Unicode. And Java chars are of this type, Unicode type. So please remember. So when it comes to this Java characters are of type Unicode. Now this we will be learning this point. However, why this is being come, because universal text format have proposed something called as I18N standard. What is I18N? This is called as I internationalization. The term internationalization is called as I18N. मतलब I और N के बीच में ये 18 characters रहते हैं. That's what it is called as I18N standard. Internationalization. मतलब साइट एक लैंग्वेज में बनाओ, एक specific settings के लिए बनाओ, and then that can be accessed throughout the world with their own settings. Then on the fly, it will change everything. So such a kind of site is called as internationalization based website. And then to achieve this, they are supposed to create a new characters called as Unicode, and Java supports these Unicode characters. Okay, so if you see this byte, what is the range of a byte, by the way? Guys, byte का range क्या है?
0 to 8.
Minus
128 minus 128
minus
to
128 to
plus
127
plus
27.
128.
अच्छा, तो which includes 0 also, right? Okay, and then short का कोई बता सकते हो मुझे?
-32768 23267
ठीक है, अभी ये देखो, what is that they have said? The characters of Unicode, 0 to 255 is the original character set that you have, correct? which is a combination of -128 to +127 kind of thing. Now the Unicode characters, they cross it, and it is a combination of 32,768 to 32,767, which is equals to 65,000 change. It will come. This is the range of Unicode. Now, if you have to go it in this way, okay, character when you initially declare it, it is of size short only. But eventually, when a value is been assigned to the character, what happens is it automatically been converted to Unicode, and it has to hold the range of 0 to 65,000. Now, what is the highest range of short? 32,000. But I may be converted to any character at runtime. So I am supposed to be assigned with 65,000 range. That's why the characters which will take the range of 0 to 65,000 change will automatically be converted to 32-bit at runtime. Now, because this has been converted to 32-bit at runtime, this will become an integer. Am I clear? So this, honestly speaking here, if you know this, like, you know that byte is of 8 bits and the character is of 16 bit, right? But yeah, sorry. Bits, and then this will become 32 bit. That's the reason why character is considered as integer. So as per to this point, if you say int x is equals to a, Java says this is fine. And similarly, if you say char ch is equals to, let's say, some 350 or anything, Java says still it is fine. That means at runtime in your programming language, character is always considered an integer, integer is always considered as a character. Am I clear? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Ram.
तो बाकी सारा तो वैसे ये तो इसका रेंज तो मेरे को कभी भी याद ही नहीं रहता. 32-bit and this is of 64-bit, and you have float 32-bit of decimal, and then this is 64-bit of decimal precision, which uses for frequencies or high range values. Boolean, it always contains either true or false. And the string in the background is always a character array, further converted to an object at runtime. An object is nothing but all our custom classes are basically considered as object in Java. Whatever you write as a custom class or whatever you import as a part of your program, all are considered as objects in Java. So these are all the 10 types which we regularly deal with. Do we deal with any other stuff more than this? The answer is no. इतना use करेंगे हम, right? But as long as you are using these primitives, right? Your first rule, what you said, what is the rule number 1? Inter-object communication. The rule says that an object must represent a class at runtime, and two objects can communicate via methods. Inter-object communication using reference and method, right? This is what we said. This rule will fail. Now, because of that, not only that one, Java is a strictly typed language. I repeat this word. आराम से सुनो. Java is a strictly typed language. मतलब क्या है बोले तो whatever to be followed is being defined already. So whatever is been defined, Java has to follow that. It cannot cross the rule also. Even for Java, it cannot cross the rules. It has to follow the rule himself. Now, if I say byte range is -128 to +127, who knows it? Who knows it basically? Somebody has to know, right? The compiler has to know. From where compiler will come to know? Usko kahan se milega information? It has to be typed, as Java is strictly typed language. So those things are typed over here, defined over here in a class called wrapper classes. So class byte, which basically represents a byte, and we have a class short, class character, class long, and we have class float, class double, and we have a class called Boolean. We have a class called string. and we do have a class called object. That means for every data type that you see in Java, we have a representative wrapper class for it, which wraps the behavior of that one. These are called as wrapper classes in Java. What is the main purpose of these wrapper classes? The behavior of data types is defined within this wrapper classes. How do they look like? Let us see. So मैं यहाँ इसको यहाँ से हटाता हूँ. ये तो ज्यादा हो गया. हाँ. Right. Okay. Now इसको separate करने में थोड़ा like to avoid confusion. ठीक है. So how a wrapper class looks like? देखो. Basically, the wrapper class looks like this. A public class byte extends father of this fellow number implements comparable. What is this comparable here? Why do I need to implement this comparable? See, basically in Java, there are two different kind of things we can do in order to get the reuse the behaviors, get or reuse the behaviors. One is by using inheritance. This is what we call as inheritance. We extend some other library and we adopt all the functionalities. Two, we implement some interface and we produce that functionality. I repeat this. This is adopting and this is producing. For example, in simple words, if I have to say a public class RAM extends trainer implements Java trainer. See, I basically inherit the behavior of a trainer from a super or my parent called trainer, but I implement a specific behavior called Java trainer. Not just Java, or can you implement any more? I can implement any number of. For instance, I am a .NET trainer also. I am a Python trainer also. An IoT trainer also. So it's I'm a designing trainer. Like I can also give you training on designing animations kind of stuff. So I'm just trying to give you one example. So here, if you see one object can include functionalities from one and only one type, one parental type, but he can exhibit any number of behaviors by implementing any number of interfaces. So here, comparable is one of the type of interface which I have I'm implementing in order to exhibit or showcase some functionality. And what is that it is? I wanted to compare myself to whom? Comparable of type byte. SNIK, I can be compared to anyone. I can be compared only to a byte. See, look at this. My behavior is clearly defined here. So whatever I wanted to do, whatever I can do is being clearly defined over here. OK, so what exactly I'm trying to define here? Now, being a byte, first of all, if I have to be compared with some other, I need to have certain range or a limit. So here I have public static final variable byte. Final means the value cannot be changed at all. Is called something called as min underscore value. And similarly, I have public static final byte max underscore value. What are these? These two define what is my minimum range. Minus 128. What is my maximum range? 127. So they define the minimum and maximum value. Now, if you try to compare a byte with another byte or there is a byte b is equals to 10. So you are saying if B is equals to greater than 20 or less than 20. How Java will know the range to be compared? Java knows from here because this is strictly defined. It is defined in a class called wrapper class. Am I clear? Many people will say this wrapper classes are given in Java because Java has to follow 100% object oriented. No, it's not the actual reason. The actual reason is Java is strictly typed language. Anything and everything has to be behaved is already been defined. So for variables also the behavior is strictly defined. Where it is defined? Here in this class. Okay. And the way byte has to be initialized into the memory, it is also defined. So there are two ways you can load a byte, public byte, which will take byte B. Similarly, public byte, which will take string byte val. So here I could say byte val. Now, what actually I am doing over here? This is what we call as boxing. That is generating wrapper from a primitive data type. So this is what we call as boxing. So when you try to generate an object from a primitive type, this is called as boxing. Now here, what is that you are doing? You are trying to give a string value. So an equivalent string value will be converted to a byte and then will be given. So internally, this will called byte of parse byte of string, or I could say the byte value that you have supplied. What is this parse byte? The method is defined. The behavior is defined. So public, that's a static method which can be directly called. So here they will call byte dot parse byte. Like this, it will be called. So when you give such a kind of constructor call internally, it will call the constructor in this way. So public static return type is byte parse byte, which will take string equivalent byte val. So the given equivalent byte val will be converted to byte and will be given to it. Okay. So this is the main thing is what we call as give me a second. This is called as data conversion. Okay, we are converting string to a data type. So this is what we call as data conversion. Okay, people also call this as basically type conversion. And then sometimes, you can do something like this. Let's say, for example, you have byte b is equals to 10, and then you have int I is equals to 10. Look at this. B is already representing a value 10. It's a value type. Why you call it as value type? You know why? Because if you say B plus plus, the value of the 10 will be increased to 11. That means B is directly representing the value 10. That's why it is called as value type. So in such a kind of case, can I say instead of giving 10, I can say B, right? Yes or no? I is equals to B. So here I'm trying to assign the value of B to I. So this is what we call as type casting, assigning one data type to another data type if the range permits. I repeat, if condition, if the range permits. This is what we call as type casting. To the one what you are doing manually here, internally go and call one of the method that we are going to write. So there are 6 methods defined like this: public byte, byte value, big short, short value, public int value, public long, long value, public float, float value, public double, double value. These methods that you have seen here are defined for the purpose of casting. So what is that they do? They are called when you try to assign one data type to another. Okay. And apart from that, there is something if you wanted to get a method public static. Okay. Byte, return type is byte. Value of byte B. So it returns sorry, value of byte when you call this value of byte uh, byte object. Basically it returns a primitive from the object. It is reverse of what you are doing on the top. This is called as unboxing. So it what is unboxing stands for, generating primitive on object wrapper, a wrapper object I would call this as. Okay na? This is what we call as unboxing. So all these kind of operations can be done using your wrapper classes. So anything and everything you are doing in your program in the background, there are so many other functionals, not that just these are like samples that I have given. Well, please understand there are so many other functionalities are also there. I cannot explain all of them. I just wanted to give you a flavor of what is the main use of this wrapper class. So I have tried given you the bare minimum things. Okay. So this is what defines the range, and this is what how an object can be created in the memory when you define a small this one. And this is for parsing, and sorry, this is for conversion, this is for casting, and this is for unboxing, this for boxing and stuff. Clear? This is the main purpose of a wrapper class. Clear on these points?
Yes, sir.
Clear.
Clear,
ये
clear.
एक बार ये एक छोटा सा प्रोग्राम का जैसा अगर आप देखना चाहोगे, so it goes something like this. I have a class called data test, and here I'll try to straight away write this public static void main args. And here I'm trying to say something. Let's say byte b is equals to 10. So here b represents the value. Similarly, here I wanted to declare int I is equals to 10. Now, what is that? I represents the value 10. So here, when you are doing like this, instead of saying int I is equals to 10, what is that you can do is here, you could actually say int I is equals to B. Okay. So is this allowed in Java? We अच्छा काम नहीं कर रहा पता नहीं. The answer is yes. The answer is yes, because we can always assign 8-bit is the data to 32-bit sized container. That is the thing. Okay, now you need to answer technically like this. Why the reason it is allowed? Because we can always assign 8-bit sized data to a 32-bit sized container. So it's something like this. If I have to say, I have two containers. Okay, ना एक छोटा सा bottle है मेरा, and the size of this bottle is 1 liter, and this is an aluminum bottle. Let's say copper bottle. You cannot see what is there or how much volume of data is there inside. And similarly, I have another copper bottle which is of size half liter. Okay, this is a half liter. Now my question is, can you pour half liter of water into this 1 liter directly? No problem, you can assign. As long as both belong to the liquid types, you can do that. Similarly, if you try to assign the water inside of the 1 liter bottle to half liter, what happens?
It will overflow.
It will
So
overflow like this, right?
overflow.
That means because the container size matters, correct or not? The same thing happens in Java also. तो यहाँ पे अगर आपको assign करना है the 8-bit value to an integer, the maximum value that can be given or modified at runtime. See, what is the meaning of variable whose value is meant to be varied during the program execution is called variable. Yes or no? That's why it is called as variable. The data inside that container is meant to be varied during the program execution while processing. That's why it is called as variable. So the data inside this byte B also is expected to be varied, but to a maximum level 127. Now tell me, is this 127, which is a maximum value of this variable, is within the limit of Mr. I, which is of type integer? Correct? Yes or no? It is. That is the reason why we can happily assign that value. This is allowed. Now, this kind of thing is called as narrowing, or what is this called as? Narrowing or implicit casting. We can directly assign the value. Java has no problem for it. On the other hand, let us say if I have int x is equals to 10. Now, I represents the value 10 to a max level of कितना level है भैया? वो बहुत सारे रहते हैं, right? Almost in crores, right? Now, similarly, if you say byte y is equals to x, can I do like this? So here y represents the value x to a max level of 127. That's the highest range of Mr. Byte. But because this is a variable, during the program execution, this can become 1000. And when it becomes 1000, can I assign the 1000 value to the byte y? Answer is no. That's the reason why you cannot directly assign the value. Rather, you have to explicitly mention Java that isko cut karo to a size of byte and then assign. So please assign byte size of value to y from x is the meaning. So what happens is here Java will take out only those number of bytes which have the maximum capacity of 107 and then assign to the y. Okay, so what is this called as? Please understand, this is called as widening or explicit casting. Am I clear? Widening or explicit casting. So now my doubt is something like this. Let us say if I have this, below I'm trying to print this value just for you people to understand. System dot out dot println value of integer x dot out dot println value of byte y casted from the total value x. So what is the value? I could say y. Now this is the actual x value and then this is the total value casted from this one. Okay, so here control S and the naam kya bhai iska? Data test, and I'm trying to save this as a Java file. Okay, so let me run this program and see what happens. So nothing, basically this is taken from the value 10 and it is 10 because 10 is within the range of 127. But what if you make this as, let us say 200. Now what is the highest size of this? 127. But you are trying to assign X value of 200, casting it to a byte. What happens? See, it will remove this 200 from the value and remaining will be assigned to this one. Look at this. It happens like 127 के बाद जो भी बचा है, that will be assigned. Hope this is clear to you people.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Hmm.
Sir, isn't it vice versa? I mean, isn't the implicit typecasting known as widening typecasting, and the explicit, the manual one, is known
Correct.
as narrowing?
Narrowing, correct, right. छोटा से बड़ा है, ये वाला widening होगा.
Yes, yes, yes.
हाँ, और ये वाला narrowing कम कर रहे हैं ना.
Yes, sir.
Narrowing, बराबर बराबर. मेरा ही वो मतलब confuse हो गया था मैं भी. Okay, यहाँ पे क्या कर रहा है बताओ? What is it is doing? So it is taking the whole thing minus 128 to plus 127 and then removing the 200 out of it. Whatever is left, it is assigning here. अगर मैंने यह इसको 1000 कर दिया, then this 255 whatever you are seeing, right? 128, 127, 256 plus 256 plus 256 plus 256 it will take, and then remove the 1000 from it. Now when the value is 1000, it behaves like this. अरे यार, मैंने कंट्रोल एस मारना भूल गया. You see? Hope you are getting this. 256 into 4 times, which will become 1004. तो उसमें से 1000 निकाल के वो जो 1024, whatever is left, it will show. Understood ना? That's how the casting will happen. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What is conversion basically is, assigning other data types. And by the way, one point people will ask you usually this as a part of the interview, but you also have to understand one important, very important thing. Where can I apply the casting? My question is straight. Between what data types I can apply the casting? Have you got what I am trying to ask? At what types I can apply the casting? Or between what types I can apply the casting?
Types. Primitive type. Primitive
Nahi,
type.
nahi. Answer must be between same parental type. इससे ज्यादा आपको casting नहीं कर सकते. Similarly, ये दोनों में कर सकते हो. Yes, कर सकते. बहुत सारा ऑब्जेक्ट से एक को कर सकते. This is what is called as casting. Dissimilar types में आप casting नहीं कर सकते. समझ रहे हो पॉइंट को? ये पूरा नंबर से, इसलिए एक से एक को casting कर सकते हैं आप. String को लेके जाके करना है, then it is called as conversion. It's not called as casting. Getting it? Getting it? Okay. कोई पूछेगा where can I apply casting? कौन से डेटा टाइप के? बोलो सेम पेरेंटल टाइप. मतलब जिसका पेरेंट सेम है उसके बीच में हम लोग casting अप्लाई कर सकते हैं. Am I clear? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Or
Yes, Ram.
and one more example of casting is something like this. Let's say मेरे पास और एक क्लास है समझो. Let's say I have a class called हमारा कल वाला क्लास था ना, याद है आपको? क्या है हमारा कॉलेज में एक क्लास है, स्टूडेंट who is having name, course, and he also have marks to be assigned, correct? We'll take that object here. So look at this. If I wanted to have a student, stud is equals to new student of, let's say I'm trying to supply him a name Ram, and I'm trying to supply him a course Java. Stud dot marks is equals to, let's say, some 60 I have supplied. Now please understand, this student is located somewhere, is pointed with this stud, is having some values. I am trying to say object obj is equals to stud. Now is this correct or error?
Correct.
Correct.
Correct, because object is my superclass. Any class that you write is implicitly by default is a subclass of object. So is this correct? The answer is yes. because all objects are implicit subclasses of object. Right or wrong? तो सही है. In that case, std2 is equals to obj. Now, how to do this? Right? Cast kar do, that's all. Cast this fellow back to student and then he will become a student. Hope you are understanding. So here we can apply explicit casting to retrieve student from object. This is allowed in Java. This is called as object casting. You're understanding this one? Okay. Control S. I am not printing anything. I'm just trying to compile. And you could see the compiler compile the program. That means it is allowed in Java. Okay. So because these both are also of the same time, so I am able to assign them to one another. So casting happens between the same parental type. Point समझ में आ गया अभी?
Yes, Ram.
लेकिन एक बात याद रखो. You cannot assign faculty. Faculty is equals to faculty of object. Why? Now this is gone. Okay, see. ये कंपाइल हो गया. रन टाइम में क्या आता है देखते. यहाँ पे कंपाइल तो हो गया. प्लीज ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड. कंपाइल तो हो गया. But if I try to say std2 dot assign marks and then std2 dot print results. क्या था उसमें मेथड? आई डोंट रिमेम्बर. हाँ, print results. तो देखो क्या हो गया था. कंपाइल तो हो गया. At runtime we have ended up with something called as class cast exception. Student cannot be cast to a faculty because the original format of the object that you are trying to cast is from student, not from faculty. You cannot try to call one of the method which belongs to the faculty. First of all, look at where you have got the error. Data test line number 22. It's not that when you are calling a function, it's that when you are trying to assign it. Okay, please beware of it. Casting always results in a runtime error, which is not caught at compile time because that's not a checked exception. That's not a checked exception, so that's not caught at compile time. Beware of it when you are doing especially object casting. Specifically, I'm saying object casting always results in class casting exception if you are not properly casting it. Am I clear? You will never know while the time of building your project also. Only when you execute the project, when that particular class is running in memory, it results in this bloody error, class casting exception. And production errors are very, very difficult to debug and then identify and then fix. So these are logical errors, basically they fault in your code. So until and unless you debug the program properly, come to that point and then identify, you cannot grab it. So beware of it while the time of doing object casting. Will you note down this point? Okay. So ये वाला याद रखो. एक ऑब्जेक्ट टाइप को दूसरे ऑब्जेक्ट टाइप में कन्वर्ट कर सकते, casting कर सकते क्या? Answer is yes, compilable. It can be compiled. But when you run, you will end up with a runtime error. Understood? Understood?
Yes, Ram.
Yes, Ram.
मैं यहाँ पे लिखता हूँ, देखो, this is allowed at compile time, but leads to runtime error. What is the error you get? class cast exception. Beware of it. Okay. So I have to say, यहाँ पे comment करता हूँ because this is wrong. I am supposed to say here student stud2 is equals to student of OBJ. Sit casting. Okay. Now don't do this. The second step. Beware. It's not that you don't do it. You basically do it in an assumption. And sometimes what happens is we don't get what we have expected, and it leads to these kind of problems. Okay. Conversion is, on the other hand, pretty simple. Basically, let's say, look at the marks of this student. Okay. So here I wanted to assign the marks. Am I clear? So I'll remove this step here. Okay. And here I'll write system dot out dot print enter the marks for enter the marks of 3 dot name s name. देखो उसका वेरिएबल का नेम क्या है? S name. Okay. Now the marks that you have assigned is supposed to be taken to a variable called marks. So I'll say int marks is equals to dot console dot read line. This system dot console dot read line always returns a string value. So here I need to explicitly convert the input into an integer by calling integer wrapper class dot parse int of this input string. Now here, this is what we call as explicit conversion, converting string into an integer type. And then here, if I say system dot out dot println marks of plus stud dot sname are, what is this called as? This is implicit conversion. Means like when we concatenate any data type to a string, the whole expression results in a string. So this is what we call as explicit conversion. What we call as the explicit conversion. What happens internally is like this. This actually takes the help of the string class. String dot value of the marks is what exactly it will call. Now by calling this string dot value, it will convert the data type of integer into string from the given value and then do the concatenate at the level of plus symbol. It actually will concatenate marks of dot concatenate stud dot name dot concatenate r dot concatenate so and so, and then it will be printed. So that's how it happens in the runtime. Now, because of this, it is called as implicit conversion. In the background, it calls string dot value of as a result. Okay. So this is called as explicit or implicit conversion. Now people will ask you where the conversion happened. You can say, देखो भैया conversion happened between string and other data types as well as other data types to string. Conversion always happens between string and other data types. The other data type could be an object also, but that happens between a string and other object. Then it is called as conversion. Now Control S, and if you go here and we'll try to compile this and run this. So here enter the marks of RAM. I could say 40. So marks of RAM are 40. it looks pretty simple that it is concatenating and printing, but in the background, it basically calls string.value of and then converts the whole stuff into string and then prints. Clear till here? Casting and conversion.
Yes, Ram.
Yes, Ram.
ये प्रोग्राम को ऐसे ही छोड़ देता हूँ. I don't want to touch this. Okay, ये मैं आपको ऐसे ही दे दूंगा. ये comments and all this will help you to note down certain points if it's kind of revision for you. Now let's go with another point. Static test. Now the point here you need to understand like static test is basically to work on the static part. Here I have a class called my class. And within my class, okay, these points are pretty important. We were speaking about the scope of a variable also here as a part of this program. Up to this level, we will discuss like now we have discussed about variables and data types, wrappers, casting, conversion techniques. The last part we were speaking about is scope of a variable as well as visibility of a static and then how local variables will hide the class level variables. All that stuff I'm going to see, or we are going to see as a part of this example. Okay, now look at this. I have an integer called, let's say, x or a is equals to 10. And then I have a static integer s is equals to 100. I have a method public void my method. Now within this method, I wanted to see them. So I would like print system.out.println. Calling would say instance variable. Why I'm calling this as instance variable? We will see when we call it from the static test. Instance variable a from my method. Yes. Then I'm saying system.out.println. Here I would say calling static variable s from my method. S. Now, my question is, I am trying to call a static variable within the method. Is it possible? Okay. So before I explain this, like no, before I take this through, when we see the output, I wanted to show you diagrammatically what happens, how this class loads and other stuff. So here I have my public static. Look at this. This is also a static, and this is also a static. Public static void main args. Now here I would like to create object of my class. I'll say my class is equals to new my class, and simply I'm calling my class dot my method. Control S and इसका नाम होगा static test dot java. Now I'll try to run this and then let you explain. I will explain you what happened. So I'll say java c static test dot java static test simply prints that one. What happens here is you need this one. Shall I remove this part? The paint.
Yes, Ram.
निकाल देता हूं. See, when you run the program, okay, please understand, when you are trying to run the program, this by default go and fetch the main method and we'll try to execute this. For example, this is not main method. They say this method is main2, control S, and here if you try to compile and run the program, it says key देखो भैया, main method not found in the class static test. Please define a method as publish static void main string args or make your class as an application. So it should be a subclass of Java FX application, or if not, it must have a main method. Either of the way, I will consider it as an application. That's why yesterday I was speaking about library and application terminology. So anything you run or anything which contains a main is called as an application. Okay. Well, why I told you, because main is the starting point of your program execution, correct? Now look at the flow. So here when you say the main is loading first, where in the static memory. So here basically what happens is there is a memory which we call as a static, which is directly visible to the JVM. Now within this there is a something called as static test dot main is loading. Am I clear? So within this static memory, which is visible to the JVM, static test dot main has loaded its instructions. So what is the first instruction? The first instruction of this method says that my class is equals to new my class. So it will try to execute this instruction. As a part of this, the instruction tells Java to create new memory. So it will go ahead and create a memory over here with two parts in it. One is heap, another is stack. The heap is basically meant for having, reference kind of elements. Stack is basically containing a value kind of element. Now it will try to load this class, and as a part of the class definition, it finds that it has an instance variable and a static variable. So here within the same memory, somewhere around here, there is my class dot s has loaded. Now this S is pointing to a memory location where the value of 100 is available, which is also within the static and then is directly accessible by this main. Look at the way I have represented this method main. Class name dot method name. All the static members are represented with the class name dot method name. But however, this one is basically a new my class memory. And I have two things here. One is heap, another is stack. Stack में values load होता है, heap में उसका reference. Now here within the heap, I'll try to load my method. So here somewhere around my method is there, and it has a Java stick as a pointer pointing to the instructions that are loaded into the method area in the stack. So this contains all the instructions which are meant for this my method. Now this entire thing, address of this heap, which already have a link to the stack, something like this, is being assigned to Mr. My class. So this object represents this memory location. Let's say if this memory location's address is 12135 something like this, and here the address of 1367 is being assigned to my class. So when you say the next instruction is, now here class members are loaded and then they got initialized, and then I have here int I which is being pointing to the value 10 also loaded into the stack. Now after that this loading part is been done, it goes to the second instruction. It says ki my class dot my method. Now JVM knows where Mr. My class is. Here it is. तो ये read करेगा JVM कि भाई तू किधर point कर रहा है, इधर, अच्छा चलो. So he will go here all the way and then finds that this heap memory having my method, and it will try to execute. So in the my method, I'm trying to print the value of I, and then I'm trying to print the value of S. Both are available, and then I have printed. Now please understand, S is loaded outside of the class. So how it is visible to one of the method available? Please remember, all the class members of my class will have a visibility of this Mr. particular static. Am I clear? Lekin static methods will not have the visibility of class members, but class members will have the visibility of static members. That's a vice versa. Static members cannot access any class member, but class members can access static members. Okay. Now I come back to the program. Okay, this is what it is. Now here, what do you mean by that, Ram? I mean to say here, if you wanted to call these values instead of printing like this, what if you wanted to print on your own from an outsider? What is the possibility? So Control C and Control V here, calling instance variable from static test, and similarly static variable from static test. Now the difference is within the method they are called directly, but outside of the class they are supposed to be called. This A, which is called as an instance variable, must be called by its instance, which is my class dot A. Static variable can be represented by the class name directly, which is my class dot S. Look at the difference here. I'm speaking with the instance name, and then below I'm trying to call it with the class name. That's so a class members of variables can be called from an outsider. Now, because of this reason, without the instance my class, you cannot call any variable of the my class. So that's why this variable is called as instance variable. The other type is called as static variable. Up to this level, this is clear.
Yes, Ram.
Yes, yes.
Now here, I'll go ahead and we'll say int a is equals to, let's say 20. And then I will also say int s is equals to 200. My question, what error I get? Or will I get an error or not? You know this? These are called as local variables. Now Java allows you to define a variable within a method that can also have the same name as the class member. It is allowed. The answer is yes, it is allowed. Here also, yes, is allowed. But problem kya bole to, with a limitation. Now from this statement onwards, from this statement or instruction, Java, or I could say the method, hides the class members and can see only local variables. This is the limitation. Matlab, if you try to print these values over here, after local variable declaration, if I say like this, please try to understand. Calling instance variable A from my method after local variable declaration. And here also, if I say Control C and Control V, Control S, and then here I'll try to comment this and uncomment this. See what happens. Now I am trying to call my method. In the my method, I have multiple statements. One is I'm trying to print the instance and static variable. Then I have declared local variables, and again I'm trying to print them. See the difference. And I go here. What is that you see? Originally, it was supposed to be 10 and 100, but after local variables have declared, method completely forgets about them and they can see only 20 or 200. So the scope of, and by the way, the scope of these local variables is again within the method. You cannot access them outside of the method also. Now within this method also, after declaring the local variables, I still wanted to see them. Then, so here it is, I'm saying dot out dot println instance and, or I could say, class members value even after local variable declaration. So what exactly I'm trying to do here is, I'll print the same things with a slight deviation. Control C, not this one. Control C, Control V. So here I simply have to use a keyword called this dot. So this always points to the current instance that is being used. So here using this keyword, now you will be able to see the value. Go back here, we'll try to recompile and run it. You could actually see the 10 and 20 using this keyword. So is this clear about the scopes, about how a static will be called outside, about how a normal class member is called outside, and how a local variable hides the scope of a class level variables. Even after local variables, if you wanted to see the class level variable, how you are supposed to see. Clear on this one?
Yes, Ram.
Yes, Ram.
Vayo Beno, this is SCJP related stuff what I'm trying to teach you. I'm an SCJP trainer. Okay, उसी में रहता है ऐसा like twisted questions ये आए तो वो कैसे हुआ है तो ये कैसे all these kind of discussions happens in SCJP. But when we develop our applications, when we develop our programs, most of the situations force us to go and deal with such a kind of same thing. So that's why I'm trying to teach you the stuff in the same way. Up to this level, everyone is clear, right?
Yes,
Yes,
Ram.
Ram.
Yes,
तो
sir.
ये
Ram.
Yes, Ram.
पता है आप
Yes,
लोगों को
Ram.
ये actually when you say static int s is equals to 100, what exactly happens in the background? ये बंदा क्या करता है? It will say static int s. Okay, it will declare is equals to 0, and then it will create a block called static, and then says s is equals to 100. This is what happens in the background. इतना करेगा वो compiler आपके लिए. That's the reason why if you declare something static int s and all. So here if you come down, किधर है? ये तो commented है ना? It is still says static int s is equal to 100, right? So here if you come down here, java p static test. Now look at the structure of this class. So you have a default constructor and a rear. What is that I'm trying to say? Java P my class, my mistake. Java P my class. If you see, you have an integer A, you have a static integer S, and you have a constructor, you have a method my method, and ye kya hai? What is this? Did I write that static block? I know that default
No.
constructor is added by the compiler, but ये क्या है भैया? मैंने लिखा है क्या? नहीं. That is also been added by your compiler. वो क्या करती है? Background में this single statement is split into two statements like this, and then it will do like that. Am I clear?
Yes, Ram.
Our last but not least point, which I wanted to tell you, there is something called as default values you need to know. Default values of different data types in Java. For all integrals, it is equals to 0. For all reals, the value is 0.0. For Boolean, it is always false. For string, it is always null. For object also, it is always null. This is the default value of different data types. Am I clear? Okay. And what is the different default data type? Hey, ये क्या है? Default data type? Yes, it is default data type. You need to know. What is the default data type of an integral? It is integer. And what is the default data type of real? It is double. Will you remember? If you are reading anything from an outsider, repeat, if you are reading anything from an outsider, if you are receiving a number, even if it is 1, it is not taken as a byte, rather it is always taken as an integer. Understood? Understood. Okay. And please understand, all character inputs are considered as string. Similarly, even if it is a single character. So this is default input types in Java. You have to note down only this point mainly. तो ये वाला note कर लो भैया, बहुत ही important point है, क्योंकि when you are developing applications, okay, you will receive something, you will expect try to cast it to a short or a byte, तो सीधा सीधा error दे देगा आपको कि भैया ये integer है, I cannot cast it to byte, like you are reading it as an integer. Okay, but you will be passing it as a byte over there. But here, the moment when you receive, it will become an integer. Similarly, if you receive a floating point number, that will be received automatically as a double. Any single character or multi-character input is always taken as a string. ये Java का default behavior है. And these are the default values. These are the default data type inputs. Clear? Okay, so that's it for today. We'll stop it now. And then in tomorrow's session, we will speak about more things like, method, uska return types, and what are the parameter. We have already seen one example of pass by value, pass by reference kind of thing, right? Okay, method में इतना ज़्यादा नहीं है आपको सीखने का. There will be always, you can write a maximum of 4 type of methods in Java. Only 4 type of methods. So we will discuss about those 4 type of methods and then how they can be written, and followed by which we will also see how to write a small inner class. Our inner class का object कैसे create करते, how do we call it, and what is the main purpose of an inner class का purpose है, is basically good explained when you speak in interfaces. But tomorrow we will see a small example of how an inner class can be created, how do we call it outside, and then different kind of inner classes, static and normal inner class. And we will also see a constructor. What happens when you create a constructor, how class loaders are loading different elements of a class into the memory, all that stuff we will discuss. Followed by we will get into oops slowly. Okay, na?
Okay, Ram.
Badhiya, super. So far the class is clear. Any doubts? Done. कुछ है तो पूछ लो, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. आई एम हियर टू एक्सप्लेन यू अगेन एंड अगेन.
Tomorrow is also at same time, 10:30.
हाँ, 10:30 to 12:30.
Okay, Ram.
Shweta ma'am won't take session today and tomorrow. She is planning to take your sessions from Monday onwards. So tomorrow
Ram,
only,
can
day
you
after tomorrow तो नहीं है by the way. So today is Thursday, right? Tomorrow only. So we will all the basics which are required before the strings, before the object-oriented programming, we will discuss it tomorrow. Okay. तो उसके बाद like Saturday, Sunday अपना life enjoy करो. किसके साथ घूमने घूमा. Monday से there will be 2 sessions for you. One by me, one by Shweta ma'am. मेरा 2 घंटा और उनका 2 घंटा, ठीक है ना?
Ram, can you please explain implicit and explicit?
हर्ष,
Yes, हाँ.
या कुछ बोल रहे थे आप?
हाँ, मैं कह रहा था कि implicit और explicit टाइप कास्टिंग के बारे में.
Implicit explicit typecasting में, if you try to assign same parental type values to one another, okay, in that when you are trying to assign smaller bit size element to a bigger big size, okay, then bigger bit size element, this is called as implicit. यहाँ पे देखो int is of 32 bit, byte is of 8 bit. When you are trying to assign a 8 bit based value to a 32 bit based value, Java happily takes it. This is called as widening or implicit casting. मतलब छोटे वाले को बड़े वाले को दे दो. ½ लीटर का पानी 1 लीटर बॉटल में डाल दो. This is okay for Java. Whereas on the other level, contrast में integer, the value can be any, forget about the value, integer of size 32 bit. Now, when you are trying to assign a 32 bit sized value to a 8 bit based container, मतलब 1 liter bottle, you are trying to pour the water of 1 liter bottle into ½ liter. Basically, there is a big scope of water overflow or data truncation. That's why Java forces you to give it a command to truncate it. This is what we call as casting. So here an explicit casting declaration is needed by you in the code. So what Java will do, it will cut the X value to a byte size and then happily assign it. So it goes something like this. आपके पास एक let's say आपके पास इतना बड़ा बॉटल है and then आपके पास इतना छोटा बॉटल है and you are trying to assign this value to this one. तो आपको जावा को बोलना है कि देखो जावा, you please cut this to the size and then assign. So what happens? It will take only this part of the bottle, whatever the value, it will try to pour it. Yes, sir. So there is no concept of data truncation or data overflow. You understand? This is called as explicit casting. So you are giving a permission to Java to cut the value or truncate the value. Get it?
Excuse me, Ram.
Yes. Okay.
Huh.
But sir,
Somebody's
when we try to convert double to int, then it gives error. There is no truncating in that case.
double to int. क्या बोल रहे हो?
When we type to convert, try to convert double to int, so it gives error
क्या बोल
at
रहे
that
बताओ?
time.
क्या बोल रहे बताओ? मैं यहाँ पे डिक्लेयर करता हूँ एक डबल वैल्यू, लेट्स से x is equals to 1000 or 100.0. And then here I would like to say you wanted to convert it into byte, let's say, right? You wanted to convert like this, correct? Yes or no? This is what you wanted to do, or here
Yes,
you
sir.
wanted to make it
Yes.
as an integer.
Okay, we can take integer also.
वही मतलब अपने जो
Hmm.
भी किया था. Now here if you see this, the subparental type has changed. What is the subparental type? If you remember, अरे यार वो तो निकाल दिया मैंने. Integral और ये real, ये दो में convert हो गया ना. You understand that one? This has become two parts. One is integrals and one is reals. Remember that one? इसका grandparent था number, but these people have divided into subparts. So now here, if you see what happens, if you try to say double x is equals to 100 and you are trying to assign integer y equals to int of x, control s, and here if I try to recompile the program, let's see data test.java, compiled Java data test. बताओ क्या एरर आया था मुझे? क्या एरर आया?
But Ram, in our coding things, the error comes.
If you say this, तब
Okay.
तब आएगा, क्योंकि वो तो ऑब्जेक्ट बन गया, ये तो प्रिमिटिव बन गया. अभी तो कैसे करना चाहिए वो टाइम पे? यू कुड एक्चुअली से x डॉट इंट वैल्यू, ये काम करेगा. शायद तुमने ऐसा किया होगा, एक बार देखो. आई डाउट सो. दिस इज रैपर. वो पुराना जो ट्राई किया था हमने वो प्रिमिटिव है, मतलब दिस इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट देन यू डिक्लेयर इट एज एन ऑब्जेक्ट. ये आराम से हम लोग पढ़ेंगे, ये भी पढ़ेंगे हम. ओके, डू नॉट गेट कंफ्यूज. ये अलग है और ये अलग है. व्हेन यू डिक्लेयर एन ऑब्जेक्ट, अगर मैंने ऐसा ट्राई किया तो क्या होगा वो भी देखते. ये एक तरीका मैंने देखा, राइट? तो दूसरा तरीका देखते. व्हाट इज दैट? इंट y इज इक्वल्स टू, आई वुड से इंट ऑफ x. ये काम करेगा क्या? दिस व्हाट योर डाउट इज. ओके, तो देखते. देखा? Incompatible types. Double cannot be converted to int because this is bloody object and this is primitive.
Okay, sir, got that.
ऐसा अगर आपको ये ऐसा कर सकते हैं क्या? Then you should ask me like this. राम ऐसा करेंगे क्या? Integer y is equals to ऐसा integer of x. ये काम करेगा क्या? ये
हाँ
काम
जी,
करेगा
ये कर
क्या?
लेगा.
कर लेगा? देखते. नहीं करेगा भैया, क्योंकि बिकॉज यू आर डीलिंग विथ ऑब्जेक्ट, तो इसका मेथड यूज करो, काम करेगा. ऐसा मत करो. दिस इज एन एरर. तो करना क्या है? सिंपल है, x डॉट इंट वैल्यू, ये काम करेगा. देखा? So remember this, बहुत twisted है, बहुत twisted. Actually यहाँ पे boxing apply करता है. Basically it returns a small int value and int is assigned to integer y. This is basically boxing apply करता है, ठीक है ना? अच्छा, राइट. दिस इज एससीजेपी कोर्स है, कुछ भी एक पढ़ लो भैया बेसिक लेवल पे, यू विल गेट रिड ऑफ ऑल दिस काइंड ऑफ डाउट्स. वो बहुत एक्सप्लेन करते हैं, सारा कुछ उसी में रहता है. हाउ जावा डील्स इंटरनली, हाउ जावा ट्रीट्स इंटरनली, सारा कुछ उसमें रहता है. ओके ना? ओके, हैव अ लंच, टेक अ ब्रेक. By the time this recording and everything will be ready, it takes 15 minutes basically for the server to record it and give. And I will be uploading it by 1 p.m. at any cost for you. Okay. Post lunch, you can go through this and then practice. Clear? Recording mic, I say stop karo. Stop.